Imagine inventing a product so successful that it was used around the world for almost a century, only to discover it had been quietly poisoning millions of people the entire time. This is the story of leaded petrol. In the early 1900s, the motor car was transforming society. But engineers faced a frustrating problem. Engines often suffered from something called knock. Fuel would ignite unevenly inside the cylinder, creating shock waves that reduced power and could damage the engine. Manufacturers searched desperately for a solution. In 1921, engineer Thomas Midgley Jr. discovered that adding a tiny amount of a chemical called tetraethyl lead to petrol dramatically reduced engine knock. Suddenly, engines ran smoother, produced more power, and could be designed with higher compression ratios. To the automotive industry, it seemed like a miracle. Oil companies and car manufacturers quickly embraced the new additive. Leaded petrol was marketed under the name ethyl, a name carefully chosen to avoid mentioning the word lead. There was just one problem. Lead was already known to be highly toxic. Even during the development of the fuel additive, workers exposed to large amounts began showing disturbing symptoms. Some suffered hallucinations. Others became violently ill. Several workers died. At one manufacturing plant, conditions became so dangerous that workers reportedly saw imaginary insects crawling across their bodies. The facility became known locally as the House of Butterflies. Despite these warnings, production continued. The benefits to the automotive industry were enormous. Cars performed better. Fuel companies made money. Demand grew rapidly. As millions of vehicles took to the roads, something else was happening. Every time a car burned leaded petrol, tiny particles of lead were released into the atmosphere. These particles settled onto roads, buildings, soil, crops, and playgrounds. Year after year, decade after decade, the contamination spread across entire countries. Scientists would later discover that even very small amounts of lead exposure could be harmful, especially to children. It can affect brain development, learning ability, behavior, attention, and overall health. For much of the 20th century, however, the full scale of the problem remained hidden from public view. Researchers began gathering overwhelming evidence. Lead pollution from vehicles was contaminating the environment on a massive scale. Pressure mounted. Governments slowly started introducing restrictions. Leaded petrol began disappearing from fuel stations across the world, replaced by safer alternatives and modern engine technology. The transition took decades. By the early 21st century, most countries had finally banned its use in ordinary road vehicles. Today, leaded petrol is widely regarded as one of the greatest public health and environmental mistakes of the modern industrial age, an invention that helped engines run better, but at a cost that the world would spend generations trying to undo.